Welcome back, everybody, to the Deep Dive. We're really excited about our topic today. It's something a lot of you have been asking about, the idea of daily affirmations and how powerful they can be, especially when you combine them with journaling.
Yeah, and you've sent us some really interesting stuff about this, including some specifics on List Stallion journals. So we're going to take a deep dive into all of it today.
Exactly. We're going to try to unpack how those two practices can work together to cultivate more positivity in our lives and really help us move towards the goals that we've set for ourselves.
Absolutely. We've had a chance to go through all the material you sent, and it's clear that consciously using these positive statements combined with the act of journaling can lead to real changes in how we think and act. Especially, when you're using a notebook specifically designed for this purpose, like the Listallian journals you mentioned.
Right, right. And we want to make sure we go beyond just, the surface level stuff that everyone's heard before.
For sure, for sure. We want to help you understand like the real mechanisms behind it all and give you some concrete steps to make this practice actually work in your own life.
Okay, perfect. So as always, we like to jump right in. Let's start with the basics. What exactly are daily affirmations and what makes them more than just, wishful thinking?
Well, at their core, daily affirmations are really just positive statements that we repeat to ourselves intentionally. It's a way to consciously direct our thoughts towards what we want to cultivate in our lives.
Okay, so instead of letting our minds wander wherever they want to go, we're taking control.
Exactly. And the power really comes from repeating them consistently. The material you sent over actually talks about how this repetition can affect our subconscious mind over time.
Interesting.
It's kind of like, imagine if you're watering a plant regularly, it gets stronger and healthier.
Makes sense.
In the same way, when you repeat these positive affirmations to yourself, it's like you're nurturing a more positive inner landscape.
Okay, so we're actively shaping our internal dialogue. Now, the sources you looked at also mentioned that these affirmations have the potential to, rewire negative thought patterns. Can you talk more about that?
Definitely. Our brains are amazingly adaptable. When we constantly engage in negative self-talk, those patterns get really ingrained.
Yeah, we all have that inner critic, right?
Exactly. And affirmations offer a way to introduce new, more positive data into the system. So by consistently affirming these positive truths about ourselves and our potential, we can actually start to create new neural pathways.
And that's what the material mentions, right?
Yeah. These new pathways are aligned with more confidence and optimism. It's not about magically erasing all the negative thoughts, but rather about building stronger, positive pathways so those can eventually become our default mode of thinking.
Okay, so it's like we're creating new mental habits, ones that serve us better. Now, I know the material you've been looking at also really emphasizes the importance of actually writing down these affirmations in a journal. Why is that considered so much more impactful than just saying them in your head?
That's a great question, and it's a really key distinction. While spoken affirmations definitely have their place, the act of actually physically writing them down in a journal adds a couple of layers of impact.
Interesting.
First of all, it just demands more conscious engagement. You have to really think about what you want to say, put those words together, and then physically write them down.
Right, right. It takes effort.
That's right. And that increased focus helps you connect more deeply with the affirmation. Second, it creates this tangible record, a physical manifestation of your commitment. You can go back and look at the affirmations you've written, see how your mindset has been changing over time, and it reinforces the commitment you've made to yourself.
Like you're making a promise to yourself on paper.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Now, we've been talking about why journaling is so crucial for this. And it's clear from the sources you sent over that these Listallian journals are considered a really useful tool. I know you've had a chance to take a close look at them. What makes them so well-suited for this kind of daily affirmation practice?
Well, there are several features that really stand out when you're talking about affirmations. One of the things that really struck me is that they have 211 pages. That might seem like a small thing, but it's significant.
Oh, yeah.
Consistency is really key with affirmations, and knowing you have plenty of space in your journal really encourages you to write in it every day. You don't have to worry about running out of room anytime soon.
That's a good point.
And then there's the way the pages are laid out, the 7.5 millimeter wide lines with those subtle dashed lines. This gives you enough structure to write neatly and legibly, which makes it so much nicer when you go back and reread your affirmations later on. But it still gives you the freedom to express yourself in your own way.
Right, right. So it's about balance, structure, and freedom. Now, what about just the overall feel of the journal itself? The material mentioned the soft faux leather cover. How does that contribute to the experience?
Yeah, that tactile element is more important than you might think. When you invest in a journal that actually feels good to hold, it elevates the whole ritual. The soft faux leather cover on the Lestalian journals creates the sense of quality and care, and it signals to your mind that this is a practice that you value.
That makes sense.
It helps you shift your perspective on journaling. It's not just a chore, it's something you look forward to, something enjoyable, and that makes you more likely to do it consistently. I'm actually reminded of a friend of mine who really struggled to keep a gratitude journal going until she got herself a beautiful new notebook. Just that simple change made a huge difference for her.
Wow, so the sensory experience can really impact our motivation.
Absolutely.
Now, we all know starting any new habit can be tough.
Yeah.
What are some of the most common roadblocks people hit when they're trying to establish a daily affirmation and journaling practice, and what can we do about them?
Well, one of the biggest challenges, and the material you sent mentions this too, is just finding the time. People have busy schedules, and it can be hard to carve out dedicated time for something new.
Yeah, for sure.
Then there's the internal resistance, that voice in your head that pops up and says, this isn't going to work, or you don't really believe this stuff anyway.
Oh yeah, that inner critic again.
Right. And finally, staying consistent is so important, but it can be really discouraging when you don't see big changes right away.
Yeah, you can start to doubt whether it's really working.
Exactly.
So how do we overcome these hurdles? What are some effective strategies?
The first thing is to be realistic. You're not going to see a complete transformation overnight. This is about making small, consistent efforts over time. Even if you can only spare 5 minutes a day to start with, that's okay. Think of it like making a small but regular deposit into your mental well-being account.
I like that analogy.
Another helpful tip is to create a specific time and place for your journaling. Maybe it's first thing in the morning or right before bed, whatever works for you. And when those negative thoughts come up, don't try to suppress them, acknowledge them, and then gently bring your focus back to your affirmations.
So it's about redirection, not suppression.
Right.
Now, when we actually sit down to write in our journal, how do we craft affirmations that are truly effective? What principles should we keep in mind?
Well, the sources you shared really emphasize the importance of being specific, positive, and writing in the present tense.
Okay, so can you break that down a little bit? What does that actually look like?
Sure. So instead of a vague affirmation like, I will be happy, try something more specific like, I am feeling joyful and content in this moment.
Okay, so I'm getting a sense of the specific part. What about keeping it positive?
That means focusing on what you want to cultivate rather than what you want to avoid. So instead of saying, I'm not worried about my presentation, you might say, I am confident and well prepared for my presentation.
Okay, so framing it in terms of what you want to experience,
Yeah.
and then the present tense.
Right. Using I feel affirmations helps reinforce the idea that these qualities are already within you or are being experienced right now.
Okay, those are really clear guidelines. The sources also mention keeping them personal and adding emotion. Can you tell us more about why those elements are important?
Of course. Using I statements helps you keep the focus on yourself and your own ability to make changes. And adding emotion makes the affirmation much more powerful.
How so?
When you connect a positive feeling to the words, it resonates more deeply. For example, instead of just writing, I am strong, you could say, I feel empowered and strong as I tackle my challenges. That creates a much stronger connection. Actually, I was reading about someone who added a brief visualization to each affirmation, like picturing themselves achieving the desired outcome while they were writing. They found that it really amplified the effect.
Wow, so you're engaging your imagination as well.
Yeah.
Now, we talked earlier about the Lestalian journal having a built-in table of contents.
Mm.
How does that feature specifically help us with crafting and using these affirmations?
Oh, that's such a useful feature.
Mm-hmm.
The table of contents lets you organize your affirmations into different categories. You can group them by areas of your life, like career, relationships, or health, or by specific goals that you're working towards. This way, you can easily find and revisit the affirmations that are most relevant to you at any given time. It prevents your affirmations from becoming just a random jumble of words.
Right, so it's about creating a system, a more focused and intentional approach.
Exactly.
Now, we can't talk about this topic without addressing the elephant in the room, negative self-talk. It's something so many of us struggle with. How can consistent affirmation journaling help us challenge those ingrained negative beliefs?
Well, it's all about what I like to call consistent counter-programming. By repeatedly exposing yourself to these positive and empowering statements, you start to chip away at the power of those negative
So
beliefs.
we're slowly but surely replacing the old tapes with new ones.
Yes, exactly. It's like planting seeds of positivity in the garden of your mind. Over time, with consistent nurturing, those positive seeds are going to grow stronger and start to crowd out the weeds of negativity.
I love that analogy.
The materials you provided actually have some excellent examples of this, like shifting from "I'm not good enough" to "I am capable and worthy of success," or reframing "I always make mistakes" as "I learn and grow from every experience."
So it's about consciously rewriting our internal stories. Now, the material also mentioned that the Listalian journal, with its high-quality paper, actually makes this process more enjoyable. How does the physical writing experience contribute to that?
That's a really good point. The quality of the writing experience can actually have a big impact on how we feel about the practice.
Yeah.
The Listalian journals use 120 GSM paper. It's thick and smooth, and it's this beautiful ivory color. It's just a pleasure to write on. The thickness means that ink won't bleed through, so your affirmations stay clear and visually appealing.
So there's no frustration. It's just a smooth and enjoyable experience.
Exactly. And when writing feels good, you're more likely to want to do it, which helps you stay consistent. And that's essential when you're trying to change those deep-seated negative beliefs.
Okay, so the enjoyment factor really matters. Now let's get a little more personal. Do you know anyone who has used journaling with affirmations to overcome a specific challenge in their life?
Yes, actually. I have a family member, Sarah, who was going through a career change and was just riddled with self-doubt. She decided to start using a journal for affirmations, not a Listalian journal at the time, but just any notebook would do to get started. She committed to writing affirmations every day, focusing on her skills and her potential to find a fulfilling new job. She told me that at first it felt really forced, like she didn't believe the words she was writing.
Yeah, that can be a common experience, right?
Absolutely. But she kept at it. She wrote in her journal every single day. And after a while, she started to notice a shift. Her inner critic started to quiet down a bit, and she started to feel more confident going into job interviews. Eventually, she landed an amazing job that she truly loves. And she honestly believes that the work she did in her journal, consistently reinforcing those positive beliefs, played a huge part in her success.
Wow, that's a really powerful example of how this practice can lead to real-world results. Now, for someone listening who wants to make this a regular habit, what are some practical tips for building sustainable routine around affirmation journaling?
Well, one thing that the sources emphasize is choosing a specific time each day to write. Maybe it's first thing in the morning to set your intentions for the day, or maybe it's right before bed as a way to wind down and reflect on the positive things that happened. Creating a relaxing atmosphere can also be helpful. Maybe you light a candle, put on some music, or have a cup of tea while you journal. Using prompts can also be really helpful, especially if you're having trouble coming up with your own affirmations. Questions like, what am I most grateful for today? Or what's one small step I can take towards my goal can lead to some really powerful affirmations.
Those are great prompts.
And combining affirmations with expressions of gratitude can be really powerful too. It amplifies those positive feelings. And of course, as we've talked about, tracking your progress in your Listalian journal can be really motivating. Maybe you make note of how you felt when you wrote certain affirmations, and then you can go back and see how things have changed over time.
Right. Right. It's all about creating a ritual that works for you, something that you actually enjoy doing.
Absolutely.
Now, I want to dive a little deeper into the science behind all of this. We've talked about neural pathways, but is there more to it than that?
Oh, definitely. There's a whole body of research that supports the idea that affirmations can actually change our brains and our behavior. One theory that comes up a lot is the self-affirmation theory. This theory basically says that we're all driven to maintain a positive self-image. So when we affirm positive aspects of ourselves, it helps us feel better about ourselves, which can protect us from feelings of threat or inadequacy.
Interesting. So it's like a buffer against negativity.
Right. And on a neurological level, as we mentioned earlier, when we repeatedly expose ourselves to these positive statements, it strengthens those neural pathways associated with positive emotions and beliefs.
So it's like we're literally rewiring our brains.
In a way, yes. And another interesting thing is that the act of writing itself engages multiple parts of the brain, including motor skills and cognitive function. So this means that when we write down affirmations, we're processing them more deeply, which makes them more likely to become part of our subconscious beliefs.
So it's not just about the words themselves, it's the act of writing them down.
Exactly. And I think even the specific layout of the Listallian journal with those 7.5 millimeter wide dashed lines could be seen as encouraging more structured and thoughtful writing, which further enhances that neurological engagement.
Wow, that's fascinating. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. Can you sum up for us what are the key benefits of using a journal like the Listallian for daily affirmations?
Sure. Well, first of all, you can expect to experience greater mental clarity. When you regularly focus your thoughts and intentions, it helps clear out the mental clutter. You'll likely also see improvements in your self-esteem as you consistently reinforce those positive beliefs. And it can help reduce stress levels by shifting your focus towards optimism and resilience. And finally, it can be a really powerful tool for achieving your goals. When you keep your aspirations top of mind and you're constantly feeding yourself those positive messages, it fuels your motivation.
So it's a really holistic approach to personal growth.
Yes, absolutely. And I think features like the soft faux leather cover and the back pocket in the Listallian really add to that sense of intentionality and care that surrounds this practice. It makes it feel special.
Absolutely. Now, the sources you sent over also included some more examples of prompts that can be used to inspire our affirmation journaling. Can you share a few more of those to get our listeners' creative juices flowing?
Sure, here are a few that I really like. What are 3 qualities that I appreciate about myself? You can then use those qualities to create affirmations like, I am resourceful, compassionate, and determined. Another good one is, what's one area of my life where I want to grow? This could lead to affirmations like, I am actively developing my leadership skills and embracing new opportunities.
Those are great.
And thinking about your values can be a good starting point too. This might lead to affirmations like, I live with integrity and kindness in all my interactions. And finally, a really simple but powerful one is, what's one small victory I experienced today? This can lead to affirmations like, I celebrate my progress and acknowledge my achievements, no matter how small.
Those are all fantastic. They really guide you toward meaningful self-reflection. And again, using the Listallian's table of contents, you can easily organize these prompts and the affirmations they inspire.
Exactly.
Now, I'm curious, do you have another story about someone who's experienced the benefits of using a dedicated journal for affirmations?
Yes, actually. I have a friend named Mark who was struggling with procrastination, especially in his creative work. He decided to start using a Listallian journal specifically for affirmations related to his artistic abilities and his commitment to his craft. He found that the act of writing those affirmations every day, particularly on the smooth, thick paper, became something he really looked forward to. And he said that having the numbered pages helped him track his consistency.
That makes sense.
Over time, he not only felt more confident in his creative work, but he also started to get a lot more done. He really believes that the intention he cultivated through his affirmation journaling in his Listallian played a huge role in overcoming his procrastination.
Another great example. Now, I want to circle back to those common challenges we talked about earlier. Lack of time, difficulty crafting affirmations, and skepticism. How specifically can the Listallian Journal help people address those?
That's a great question. When you have a dedicated, high-quality journal like the Listallian, it just makes the whole practice feel more important, more worthy of your time, even if you can only spare a few minutes. And having those 211 pages means you have plenty of room to play around with different prompts and find the affirmations that really resonate with you. That can make it a lot easier to get started. And for people who are skeptical, the premium feel of the Listallian, the thick paper, the beautiful cover, it all contributes to a more positive and engaging experience. It's more likely to make them want to stick with it long enough to see those benefits and overcome their doubts. In a way, the quality of the tool itself can enhance their commitment to the practice.
So the journal becomes like a supportive partner in the process.
Exactly.
Okay, so to wrap things up, can you paint us a picture of the kind of results someone might reasonably expect to see if they consistently journal affirmations using a Listallian?
Well, I think over time, with consistent effort, you can expect to become much more self-aware. You're regularly checking in with yourself, reflecting on your inner world. You're likely to develop a more resilient mindset, one that can handle the ups and downs of life. And you might find that you're much more motivated and clear about what you want to achieve, fueled by that growing sense of self-belief. Just imagine looking back through your Listallian journal, filled with pages and pages of your evolving thoughts, intentions, and expressions of gratitude, all captured on that beautiful paper. It becomes a tangible record of your personal growth.
It sounds like such an empowering practice.
It really is.
Now, just to drive this home, let's talk explicitly about why the Listallian Journal's specific features are so well suited to daily affirmations.
Okay, so that thick, high-quality 120 GSM paper, it makes writing a joy, not a chore. It feels luxurious and prevents ink from bleeding through, which just makes the whole experience more enjoyable and encourages you to keep writing. Then you have that soft faux leather cover. It feels good in your hands, it's durable, and it elevates the whole ritual of journaling.
Right.
And then having those 211 numbered pages, it lets you easily track your progress and see how much you've written. It becomes a visual representation of your commitment. The built-in table of contents lets you organize your affirmations by theme or goal, which makes it so much easier to revisit and reinforce them. The dashed lines provide a nice structure for your writing while still giving you freedom to express yourself. And that little back pocket, it's perfect for storing inspirational quotes or little reminders, anything that supports your affirmation journey.
It really sounds like a tool that was designed with intention.
I think so too.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the key takeaway you want our listeners to walk away with today?
The most important thing is that a carefully chosen journal, like the Listallion, can be an incredibly powerful tool on your self-affirmation journey. It provides the structure, the space, and even the sensory experience that can really amplify the transformative power of this practice.
Wonderful. And what final words of encouragement would you offer someone who's thinking about integrating daily affirmations and journaling into their life?
I'd say just start. Start small, be patient with yourself, and trust the process. Creating a consistent practice of nurturing your inner voice with positivity can lead to amazing personal growth.
That's great advice. And to leave you with one final thought, consider what positive affirmation, if you really embraced it and wrote it down every single day, could have the most positive impact on your life right now. Maybe that's the perfect first entry in your new journal. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Thanks for having me.